This is my Lenovo Legion GO, and let me tell you, it was worth the wait. I think I've been using this for about 4 days now. I've just been using it non-stop, day in, day out, really for several days now. I've been online, on forums, I've been on Discord, I've been on Reddit, I've been watching YouTube videos. I've been playing with this thing constantly, tweaking it, messing with it, doing everything you can possibly do. I've been holding off on this review and actually publishing it because I want to really deep dive this device. I've got a really full review for you guys right here. So unbox that there. I have my Steam Deck right here as well, which would be the closest in size difference. I actually do have an ROG Ally. It's not a original case. They come with like a sleeve type thing, but you can see here, you know, it's obviously thinner. It's a thinner device. Same width and everything like that. But you can see that the Legion GO has a slightly bigger carrying case that comes with it. This may matter to people because you're going to be putting it in a bag, taking it with you. Nice screen coverage there, nice screen protector there so that you're not going to have any pressure on the screen itself when it sits there. It just gives it a gap basically. And then your two joystick spots there. Little lift tab, that's all nice. What's this thing? That's for the right stick, I guess, to slide it around. You see, and this is why I didn't publish my review. I'm actually working on my review right now. It's like days after launch. I've just been using this thing constantly. You know, I'm online talking to people, and then I just realized that this case has a USB port on it, which is super cool, right? And then you zip it up, whatever. There's a little slot there. And so once it's lined up, I don't know if this is, you know, like a good port or whatever, I'll have to see. Oh, it does fit actually. Okay, so there you go, right? Like you can plug in your thing and then close it and then charge. This may not be the most flashiest review you're going to watch. This may not be the one that has the most ambiance and, you know, some cute little plants and beautiful lighting, but I promise you guys I'm going to do my absolute best to give you the most in-depth but also direct review of this handheld here, and so to help you decide if you are going to buy it. So before I bring in one of its competitors, I'm just going to talk about how it feels in my hands. For context, my size, I'm slightly over 6 feet and I'm a little bit lankier too. So a larger device like this, I may have a little bit of immediate bias, you know, the fact that I'm above average in terms of size, I may just prefer it because it's bigger. So the hand feel on this actually feels quite nice. I've been playing with it all day just to get an idea. It feels really nice in the hands. As a bigger human, it does feel quite nice. Activity of it, you know, it has this nice ergonomic grip here. So, you know, your hands feel, especially on the back, it just feels like you're just resting, you know, like any type of good controller in your hands. There are some little bit of I wouldn't call them annoyances, but this flat edge up here, when I have my hand on it, it definitely, you know, it digs in. There's no like roundedness to it. The way that my hands are sized, it does kind of fold over okay, so I can basically just hold this without any issue. But I can see someone who has slightly smaller hands, that actually being annoying because they're going to be kind of gripping over this hard part here. But if you bring in the Steam Deck here, you can see here it's rounded, right? So if you hold the Steam Deck, your hand's going to naturally cup in and you're just going to feel nice and ergonomic. So the Steam Deck has a more ergonomic hand feel. For me, and probably for anyone, it just feels nice. The Nintendo Switch, you know, it's not great. It's just kind of square and it's flat. It lacks the kind of butt on the back. I actually have a case that I put on this and it's like JTech and it gives it some grip on the back, but I wanted to give it its nude form here for you guys. The ROG Ally also has that kind of bum you can see there, and it rounds off here on the edge, and this doesn't, right? You don't have that rounded off edge here. So when I have my hands on here, it does kind of come in nicely, but there's something weird about the ROG Ally where, I don't know, like my hands just feel kind of abandoned over here or something. I don't know how to describe it. And like there's nowhere for my fingers to go here. You know, this is the optimal. This is going to be the gold standard for the hand feel right there. And then this one, the back, on the Go, the back feels fantastic. Like my hands feel really nice and they don't feel kind of abandoned back here. Like I can sink my hands into this back here and feel good about it. It's just that there's a little bit of a sharp edge there. I don't think it's going to bother me. I mean, I'm using it all day, but I can see that bothering people legitimately. Another weird thing that you may notice is these are like Joy-Con type controllers there, right? Like they come off, as we know. So there's a little bit of wobble to it. You can see there. So you can feel, it's not wobbly, but you can feel if you're really going like that. Typically, you know, I'm holding it and my hands have some strength to it when I'm holding the device because it's not a tiny little device. So I don't actually get any wobble. The Switch does, of course. It's quite old. But, you know, these feel nice and firm. Pretty good, I would say. The light up ring around the outside is annoying to me, but you can turn it off, just like the ROG Ally. It's super annoying. But these feel good. And the placement is good. I like the fact that it's above the D-pad. Exactly the same as the ROG Ally placement. You can see there. These are softer. They feel fine, but they're like kind of like looser or something like that. These feel much more firm. There's more resistance to them, which I prefer, and I think most people probably would. The Steam Deck, once again, is the gold standard. These joysticks just feel really nice. The actual cupping of this on your thumb doesn't feel quite as nice because it's a little bit shallower. I think it has it has sensors in that too, but it's a little bit shallower, so your fingers can slide off of it. This, you're not going to have that issue. It's slightly more cupped down, so you're not going to have that confidence issue, but it is a little bit more slidey. D-pad. It has a really nice D-pad. I don't know, I've heard people say it's bad, but no, it's a good D-pad. It's nice and clicky. And I've been playing some side-scrollers and beat-em-ups on it, and they feel nice, right? Some platformers, I've been playing those too. This is a nice D-pad. It's a more traditional D-pad. The ROG Ally has a nice D-pad too, but it's a floaty style. You can see it's like a unibody, kind of rounded like that, more like an Xbox. But there's no click. Right? Like it's just one kind of rotation. The Steam Deck does not have a good D-pad. It's okay. The D-pad on it's a little bit floaty. It's kind of I would say the D-pad on the Steam Deck is the worst of the three. ROG Ally is probably second best. The best would be on the Legion GO, but I think that's very subjective. The placement is better on the Go, hands down. I like this kind of D-pad down here and this up here versus this here. And then the D-pad's way over here. Like it's just weird. Like if you're actually playing with this, it's almost like a second thought. You have these two control buttons here. And then you have your, like what I'd call start and select. When you're playing games, it is a little weird for me to get used to, probably because I'm just not used to it. So it's like start, select. So you have like your menu buttons over here. And then these are more of your like interface control. You can bring up the Lenovo interface there and, you know, some of the other interfaces here, like the performance sliders and that there. Whereas these, you have them kind of side by side. So, you know, start, select, whatever order they are there. And then you have your secondary controls. So you're going to be basically most of the time coming down here, which is a little weird, to be honest. The Steam Deck is the same basically as the ROG Ally. You have your primary select and start up here, and then you have your like interface controls down here where it doesn't matter where they are. They can be wherever they want. Of course, then we have the haptic trackpads here on the Steam Deck. We have two of them, left and right. When you're actually using them, these have a very pronounced kind of haptic feedback. They make like a, if you've used it, you know what I'm talking about. And you can really feel like the micro motors in there while you're clicking. And then of course there's the left one. This has one of them and it's quite nice. There is a haptic feedback, but it's not super pronounced. I'd say it's good because the Steam Deck can kind of be like almost jarring. It's like as you're moving this around, when you're moving your thumb around, it does feel nice for controlling. So I actually do like that quite a bit that's included. And of course it is an upgrade over the ROG Ally. It doesn't have that. You can navigate with the joystick here, but it is not intuitive. It's just so much better to just have this here. And I don't always want to touch the screen. Maybe sometimes I do. So then we have the shoulder buttons here. They feel nice here, nice and clicky. And the triggers feel nice. Nothing fantastic, but they're fine. Yep, they feel good. ROG Ally here, inferior click, but still fine. Triggers feel nice, much nicer on the ROG Ally. So the ROG Ally has better triggers, inferior shoulder buttons. The Steam Deck, these actually feel pretty cheap up here, and the triggers feel pretty good. So weirdly, the best triggers are on these two here, but then the best shoulder buttons are here. Better shoulder buttons, worse triggers. Better triggers, worse shoulder buttons. And then it has this button over here, which is a secondary auxiliary click there. I haven't used it yet, but it'd be useful. You can just basically, you use your finger like that. So if you have like, I don't know, like a reload button or something in a game and you don't want to take your fingers off here, you could just basically move your hand there. And then of course you do have the back triggers here. The weird thing is they're not symmetrical. So the right hand here has them side by side and then the left is up and down. I don't know, it feels fine, I guess. It's a little weird that they're not in the same place. It's just, I guess you can figure it out. Oh, it's freaking out, but whatever. It's just weird. Here they're symmetrical, but you only have two, right? So on this one, you have like all kinds of triggers on the back there, two on the left, two on the right, and then you have the extra shoulder button. This one, you just have two here. They're fine. I don't ever use them, but I'm sure that some people do. And then the Steam Deck has the two again. So they're kind of similar. They feel a little mushy on the Steam Deck when you're playing with them, but they're in a good spot. They're literally under my fingers when I'm playing. So I have one finger on each. It's just that this one right here is just a weird spot for a shoulder button. I don't know. It's just weird. I don't understand it. Then you have this little wheelie boy here, which you can use for various things. Of course, you can map these. There's a button there. You can actually press it in. It feels nice and tactile. So you can obviously just straight up detach your joysticks here. take the first off. So, you know, you can straight up remove these here. That actually takes off a fair bit of weight here. And then then you have the tablet here, which, you know, you can set up however you want. You can see there. And then you have that detachable. So, you know, if you're using an external controller, like an Xbox controller, obviously this has an advantage, right? It has a built-in kickstand with it. That's awesome. You just put that down. You don't have to buy a second kickstand. You can detach your controllers, taking the weight off. This is just a little tablet you can take with you and you're not going to have any issues. Nice and tiny. This is a V1 switch here. So, you know, it's definitely taller. You can see me there. Definitely a bigger handheld. The Ally, you know, of course it doesn't have a kickstand. I bought this cool little ESR thing. It works great. It's been stuck on there since day one. I mean, it's not a big issue that doesn't have a kickstand, but you got to throw in another 10 bucks. And it's definitely not as, you know, sturdy. You can make it fall over. This has a full body kickstand, right? Having these detachable Joy-Cons is actually quite nice. It's just, you can play like this, right? Like you can have that set up, sitting back, and you can play like this. You can get, I've already seen people 3D printing kind of the centerpiece that normally you'd see on these Joy-Cons from Nintendo, where you have that centerpiece. People are already 3D printing that, and I'm sure down the road, eBay and Amazon, probably not even that far down the road, there's going to be attachment pieces that you can buy from different sellers. Ports on this, obviously we have two. This is a major factor here. So we have a USB-C and a USB-C. So right now I have an NVMe enclosure plugged in. That's what's over here. USB-C, NVMe right here. And then the second thing, you know, you can hook up a charger or something like that, right? So let's say we have a charger there, so I can be charging my device and just having no issues there. And then I can have a USB-C plugged in right there. That is a massive upgrade over the other handhelds. The reason is you can get yourself a little NVMe like that, you know, stick it in the back, just let it hang out like I do, and then have your device charging at the same time. So that is amazing, the fact that you can do that, meaning you're not going to have to buy as much storage for your device. I'm going to actually have this that I use for all my game testing on all my laptops and desktops and that. This is a 4 terabyte NVMe, runs nice and fast. You can put it in here and you're going to get awesome speeds, more than enough for gaming purposes, or you can ball out and get yourself one of these. This is a 40 gigabyte USB 4 enclosure. I think there's actually something in there. Yeah, there is. So this one right here, you know, I can hook this up right here, plug this in. It's a little bit bigger. It's going to give me 40 gigabit per second speeds, which will translate into around 3,500 megabytes per second speeds in this device. So this Gen 3 drive is going to be able to max out its speeds. It's actually going to go very, very fast, comparably fast to some of the internal storages you can actually get on this device. Now that we have USB 4, you can get yourself a USB 4 enclosure like this, which will give you approximately 3.5 times the speed of this right here. The other thing is USB 4 is going to support eGPUs. Now the ROG Ally does have its own proprietary GPU called the XG Mobile, which you plug into the top there in that port there. I have it off to the side here, and it gives you nice speeds and it works really, really good. The problem is it costs an absolute fortune and they're impossible to find. So I don't really consider it much of a benefit on the ROG Ally because you're going to be paying like $1,000 or more to get one if you can even find it. So it's cool, but Asus needs to just make more of them. Because this here, you can get yourself a Razer Cortex eGPU, which I have on the floor over here. And then you can just grab yourself any old GPU that you can get used locally. Like this is a 3060. This thing cost me I guess US, it would have cost me 110 bucks, $115 US, 3060, 12 gigabyte. Throw that in that Razer Cortex thing that cost me 140 American. So we're looking at under $300 US. And I have myself a desktop 3060 that I'm going to be able to hook up to this here. That's pretty compelling. And you can do that now because you have USB 4. And here's something that you're not going to be able to do on the ROG Ally, and that's get transfer speeds off of an external enclosure that are 3,000 megabytes a second or faster. And just for some context here, you can see the ROG Ally, same exact enclosure plugged into the ROG Ally, same exact drive. It's that same SK Hynix extremely high-end drive. And you can see here how much slower the reads are. It's actually slower than I thought. I thought it would do better than that. I always thought this thing would do 1,000 megabits. You're getting 40 gigabit speeds on the Legion GO, and that's going to give you, 3,000 to 3,500 megabytes a second transfers. And yeah, this is giving you like 600. So it's actually not even running at full 10 gigabit speeds. I guess they don't claim the speed, but I thought it was. Okay, and here's the fun part of the video for me, and that's the teardown. I've seen this online, but I wanted to do it myself. So obviously we're able to take off the joysticks and that there, but let's look at the piece here. It's really thick because it's got this, the kickstand there. So it's a little thinner without the kickstand, but once that's on there, it feels nice and sturdy. Let's compare that to the ROG Ally, which is just a plasticky thing. I don't know why they do this. It seems like it always gets less airflow to me when they do this on Asus stuff. Like they do this slanted thing. I don't know, like which one of those is going to bring in more air? If the same fans, right? Like it's got to be the Legion GO. I don't know. It's like a design choice that Asus does. I don't know. But anyways, it's fine. It's like a cheapo little plastic thing, but whatever. No issues with that whatsoever. And then the Steam Deck is just like literally like a plastic plate. And then it's weird because this doesn't actually sit over the fan itself on the Steam Deck. It just like pulls it passively through. But there's the SSD right there. I'm not going to do the swap on this video. The guy that I know from Discord is a cool guy. He's a YouTuber. There's a YouTuber that I know. He makes good stuff. His name is OKS Gamer. I'm going to put that down below. You can follow him. He shows you how to swap this out. You can put in a 2242 and just plop that in there. I actually showed on one of my videos that you can buy one of those. You can shuck them from a Sabrent enclosure and just pop it in there. But you can also use 2230s. A lot of people have these. These are easy to find because they were so common for the ROG Ally, the Steam Deck, and Microsoft Surface and that. So it's a lot easier to actually find these 2230. That actually came with the Steam Deck. But, there's other ones you can get that are a little better. And, normally this wouldn't fit because it's a 2230, but you can buy adapters that you basically stick in there and then you screw this into it. And it just basically gives you a 2242 size bracket. I'm going to try both. I'm not going to do this yet because I ordered it off eBay and it hasn't arrived yet. But basically you can put in a 2230 size drive there. You put in your little adapter that'll basically fill it up. Or you can just put in a 2242. If you want to do the adapter route, I'm going to put that link in the description below to a different person's channel. It's not mine. It's OKS Gamer, and he's a big console dude too. So if you're into the Legion GO or any of this stuff, you're probably going to like his channel. Anyways, we have some of the antenna here for Wi-Fi running around the device here. Batteries packed under there. Nice big battery. You can see here it's a 49.2 watt-hour battery, so let's just call it a 50 watt-hour battery. One fan on this here. Now it is a nice thick fan, right? You can see there. All right, nice big fan there. And if you watch the benchmarking later where I'm actually going to do some thermals, you'll see the fact that despite this is one fan, it actually gets really good temperatures. So the ROG Ally obviously has two fans, as we can see there, versus one fan, but they're quite a lot different. The actual fans are not, don't have as much Z height on them. Different design too, right? So this one here has less dense fins, which does matter. The fin density is going to affect how much airflow it has. This one here has slightly more dense fins there. These are connected and they're actually coming out from the center there. These ones are basically attached to like a bottom plate style. This is a thicker style actual fan. The vent itself is thicker. Everything is thicker, so you can see the actual thickness of the vents there is a little bit different. So yeah, so a little bit different. One heat pipe there with a single fan setup, a better fan than this, but there's only one of them, versus dual fan. So I mean, it's going to run a little bit different. There's one single heat pipe that runs here to the chip. It goes over here and then it goes over here. And then we have the Steam Deck here. There are two models of Steam Deck in terms of the fans themselves. I have the later revision. I actually bought one of these on launch and then I ended up selling it. And then I knew I was crazy, so I rebought it. This is the better fan. It runs quieter. I'm not sure if it runs cooler or anything, but you can tell by the plate here. My earlier Steam Deck ran noisier and it had a different fan style on it. It actually looked quite a bit different and it had a silver plate on it here. So this is the like Mark II model or whatever. I don't know, it says RV00, but whatever. This one runs quieter, basically. Here we go in some time spy. I'm just letting it run. That's the fan noise there. It's absolutely maxed, just ripping. So around 46 or so. I mean, it's not remotely as loud as a gaming laptop or something. Like, it's not even in the same realm as that. I would say it's more similar to like your standard business laptop when you were running something intense, like a ThinkPad or something, or a Dell laptop. If you were letting it just go, it's the same type of fan, because the fan's not very big in here, right? It's a pretty small fan and it's just not gonna make a ton of noise. But there's no pulsating noise, there's no high-pitched squeal. It's just a fan noise. Okay, and here we go on the ROG Ally as a comparison. We'll just listen to the fan noise here. But the ROG Ally is quieter, like it's just objectively quieter. So for science, I decided to download a very sketchy BIOS off the internet. Apparently, it's a beta BIOS that's being pushed out to some select users in China, but someone, I guess, leaked it or put it online. You do not want to do this. I'm just going to warn you that. But what I did it for is because now Lenovo has added 6 GB UMA buffer, which is significantly better than 4 in most cases. I still wish 5 was here because 5 seems to be the best for me. But moving up to 6 is going to be good for a lot of people, and that's going to allow you to have 6 gigabytes of VRAM and then 12 allocated to system memory. Again, this is not a official BIOS, so your mileage may vary. Do not do this, but for me, I mean, this may be indicative of what's coming down in maybe a few days or a week or so, and that's basically pointing out that Lenovo is listening to the community. Let's have a look at the screen and do a bit of a screen test here. So obviously we know this is a 1600p screen with 144 Hz refresh rate, so it's a very fine resolution screen, especially at the size. You're going to get extremely high pixel density on it, PPI. You're also going to get obviously really, really high refresh rate. But that's only one part of it. The other major thing for me is it has really, really beautiful colors. Good color range on the screen here. Reds are the one area. If you get yourself a bad screen with not good color range, you're going to get more of an orange color. Here's the Steam Deck here, and we can see it has this orange tone to it. This is not a very color accurate screen. It's not a horrible screen. I have to bring that down, but look at those blacks. No bleed whatsoever on the screen there. You know, no IPS bloom. It's an IPS screen. No IPS bloom there whatsoever. It's a beautiful screen. Absolutely no bleed on there whatsoever. Beautiful contrast. It does not do justice from what I'm seeing. It looks way better in person, I assure you that. And if you see my videos, you know you can't capture these colors on necessarily a good sensor. Beautiful screen. We're talking like almost like a creator level screen. Like you could do graphic design on the screen. Legitimately, you could. It's small, but it has the type of screen that you could do graphic design on. And you can see there, I'm not going to show much in person, but look at how much more vibrant the Legion GO. It's not even a contest. So what we're getting here is just way more color range there, and you can see here it's being squished. It's actually more obvious in person than it is there. It's got a little bit of a washed out kind of pink color to it. This is super vibrant. It's just a beautiful screen. Of course, it's a bigger screen, so it's more immersive as well. Like the greens, everything, it's just more muted. So yeah, I mean, it's not really a fair comparison. The Legion GO, the ROG Ally is fine. It's good. It's a good screen. We're not going to like rip on it. It's got VRR. There's no variable refresh rate on the screen here, so there are some negatives too. You know, you do lose that VRR capability, but the actual screen is a finer resolution, and it's a beautiful, beautiful screen. And you know, when it comes, that's just gaming, right? When it comes to actually navigating through Windows, I mean, it's night and day. This thing is tiny. I mean, I have big hands, but I don't have like thick fingers. I don't have sausage hands. I have like actually pretty skinny fingers, or average, I guess. And this little thing is tiny, right? Like I can get in there, but you know, I really need to, you know, make sure that I'm navigating there. This is like reasonable. This is like a reasonable thing to navigate through. This is a tiny little guy, right? When it comes down to it, Windows, even if you scale it, it's not fantastic on the ROG Ally. It's not that big. And then of course on here, on the Legion GO, it's much more navigatable. It's not amazing, but it's still much better on this here. Having on the Legion GO here, and that's Baldur's Gate. But I've primarily been playing on my laptop because the ROG Ally, the game runs fine. Like you can see my recent video on the ROG Ally and Steam Deck playing the game, and it runs totally fine. It's just that it's so small that the interface is like tiny. You know, here, this screen is big enough that if you detach the controllers, you bring this to you, like you're not going to have any issues using a mouse and keyboard with this and seeing everything. You know, I actually see this stuff. Whereas on the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck, it's just a little small, to be honest. Here's another major benefit: Civilization games and, you know, 4x games, just these type of games in general. But I never wanted to play it on the ROG Ally, and I never wanted to play it on the Steam Deck because it was so tiny. Like the interface was just tiny, tiny, tiny. All these little interface here, the buttons, like these little guys up here, were tiny. But I mean, like on here, you can do it. You can play this game touchscreen. You can actually do it here. Of course, you know, I'm still going to play with the mouse and keyboard, to be honest. But, I mean, if you just want to play the game on touch, it works perfectly fine. And because it's a large screen, actually interfacing with stuff is reasonable here. The larger screen facilitates the playing of other types of games, like these 4x games, strategy games, you know, like Baldur's Gate top-down isometric games, where, you know, this stuff would be way too small on the ROG Ally on that 7-inch screen. Okay, now we'll do the audio test here. I've heard that the ROG Ally has better audio. I'm not sure that that means that this is bad, but I haven't actually, you know, listened to any music or anything. But let's listen to some music here. The speakers are up firing right here, 1 and 2. So they're not going to be coming right at you. They're going to be basically going into the ether. So that may be part of it, but we'll listen here. Turn it up to max here. Let's see how loud it is here. I grab my noise meter. I think it's maxed. So I would say 70 to 75 or so, at least in this zone. So it's not going to win any awards. I would think this is probably going to be the weakest part of the Legion GO. It's nice and crisp. Obviously it doesn't have a lot of low-end bass. I mean, it's a handheld, none of them do. It's not like you're going to be, you know, thumping like a MacBook Pro or something, but it's just not directional. It's not right at you. You can kind of hear it coming out. Turn it up. So immediately it sounds better because it's directional. So those two speakers are coming right at me instead of above. Obviously louder too, right? We're up into the 80s. Part of that increased volume is that it's directional, so it's literally coming into my hand sensor. But that's the same as you. You'd be sitting there, so the ROG Ally would be blasting music right into you. And because the way that it's oriented, you do get this kind of stereo speaker, and your face is in the middle, and you will hear one stream in either ear there. It's going to come right at you. So I think the positioning of the speakers are the primary thing. It's not... I'd say there's a little bit more bass, too, on the ROG Ally. Just better speakers. Like, it's not game-changingly better, but they are better speakers. Absolutely, they are definitely better speakers. There's really no contest there. The ROG Ally has better speakers for one thing, and they're positioned better. So they're going to get dual audio, stereo. Okay. So you can see here, they're not much louder than the GO, but they're more directional. So the Steam Deck also has better speakers. Not only are they more directional, they're coming right at you, so one into each ear, but they're just better speakers. So Legion Space on the Legion GO here is where you kind of do your tweaking, I guess I'd call it. You can do some updates, and you know, you can launch into this. It's kind of like the ripoff for the Steam Deck, like SteamOS, which kind of brought this out here and does it very well. You can go in here, and then of course you can go through menus. You can do stuff like, you know, control and shut down and that kind of stuff in here. So you have your general spot here. You know, clocks and all that kind of stuff. Performance, you can change your different performance modes. Change your custom, like thermal performance here. You can be in performance, best performance, whatever, custom. Whereas on the ROG Ally here, it's a little bit more like curated here. You know, I have the buttons over here, and you can come in here, you have your settings and that. I don't actually prefer this setup where it's these like little tiles and that. It's kind of annoying. But what I do like about the ROG Ally is you can just press this button here in game or out of game, and you can access your performance modes right there. You can go from keyboard to like auto mode there, game profiles. You have RSR, AMD's RSR right there, right in here. So that's really nice. You know, volume up, volume down, brightness right in here. That's awesome. Press that button there, it goes away. Press it again, it brings up the whole menu here. That's fine. Press this one over here. It brings up some of the controls, and you do have to just come down here a little bit further in. You press it once. It's going to bring up like a slider over here, depending on what you're doing, and you can go through your different options here. But it's just a little bit less approachable here, which is, you know, one more button. But there's some other cool stuff in here too. Like you have your resolutions here. So 2560 by 1600 is the native resolution. You can go 1920 by 1200, which is close to this here. This is 1920 by 1080. But you can also go down to integer scaling here, 1280 by 800, which is going to give you the integer scaling. You get native integer scaling when you go to 1280 by 800, and it doesn't look super blurry. So even if we come back into Windows here, you know, it doesn't look super blurry. It definitely is not as fine resolution when we're doing that there. Like you can see, it's just not as crisp, but it doesn't look weird. Toggle your Wi-Fi and that. Your performance profiles, or you can do real quick right here. These are the games that I have installed, right? And it tells me that I have Valheim installed, 3D Mark and Steam. The other ones are on my external SSD, so apparently they're not there. ROG Ally has a similar type thing. Basically the same. These are the games that I have installed on the internal or on my SD card. Nothing's going to beat the Steam Deck. I mean, it's kind of just not fair. It's so clean. You come in here and you just go to your library. I don't know, it's just so clean. The gaming mode is kept separate from this. This is like its own full curated feature. Valve put a lot of effort into this, you know, keeping this nice and clean. And here's a trick I learned from a user on Discord, Design Gears. He showed me how to do this. Normally when you boot up Windows, which I just did, the Legion space opens, and it's super annoying because then you have to close Legion space. What he showed me how to do here is you can actually disable it in tasks. So then you click on this here, this task scheduler library, and this will be in here. It'll say LS daemon or daemon. And when you go into here, you right click on this, you go to properties, and then this comes up here. So then you go to actions here, right there. You go to edit, and right down here it says start, and what you do is you change this to silent start. And you hit OK. Hit OK. So we come back in here. Boom, Legion Space doesn't open. Normally Legion Space would open up, fill your screen, and then you'd have to kill it, because right now it's not great, to be honest. It needs some work. So you'd have to then kill off Legion Space, which is annoying. But when you do it this way, your Legion Space just won't even come up in the first place. But again, like I said, you're still going to have access to all these controls over here, and you're still going to have access to all your quick controls over here if you press it again. I got the flight stick thingy going here, and we're going to come in here and we're going to play a real game. Yeah, it works amazing. This is very enjoyable. There you go. This thing is sick. I thought this was going to be super dumb, but it's very sensitive, it tracks very well, and it's awesome. I guess it depends on the type of games you play. If you're not into FPS shooters, I'm going to be doing a full eGPU test on this, and of course I'll be doing native gaming, so I mean, there's going to be a lot of gaming tests that I'm going to be doing down the road. I have my power going into the bottom, which is awesome. And then I have my external NVMe, which runs nice and fast. So I don't even need to worry about loading things onto my SD card right now when I'm doing game testing, which is glorious for me. So 1600p native, even low. Obviously it's not going to run fantastic, but the nice thing about FSR is the higher the native resolution of the screen, the better FSR is going to look when you turn it on, because you have more pixel data to work with. So that's why some titles, like if you watch my recent video on Baldur's Gate 3 getting FSR, and I compare it on the Steam Deck to the ROG Ally, on the Steam Deck it doesn't look as good because it's a lower resolution, so there's less data going in. The higher resolution screen, 1600p, means you can turn up FSR higher than you could on a 1080p screen or 800p screen or whatever, and it's going to look better. Yep, so you can just throw it on low and throw it on that lower resolution and play, and it doesn't look too soft or blurry or anything because it's a native integer scaling, meaning it divides evenly into the native resolution. It looks fine. Getting a really high frame rate here, right? If you were to throw the ROG Ally on even 720p, it doesn't look as good because it's not a native integer scaling. So this just looks better here. Yeah, so you can use the native integer scaling and just decrease the resolution, or you can use FSR. Performance FSR here is doing well. Not quite as good as just lowering the resolution, but it looks sharper. So, like this looks noticeably sharper than the native integer scaling. Both of them looked good, to be honest, but it's just a little less soft. Yeah, and there's ultra performance there, so. Right, so now you're getting close to that 60 again. Not quite, but very similar. Looks a little bit better than just using the native integer scaling. Either or. I mean, because the screen is small, if you just use that native integer scaling, throw it at 800p, it still looks really good. Look at the temperatures. They're really not that bad. There was one point where we hit a max of 90 on the CPU, but average-wise, I think that was probably before the fans kicked up. Average-wise, we're running pretty good here. 71, 70, 68, 67, 51 or so. And it's just, you know, the lows are down, but yeah, it's running pretty cool. It's not throttling or anything, you know, it's not getting that hot. It does get peak for a little bit there, but you can see here with just a balanced FSR, it's not even cranked up or anything, we're getting a pretty good 35 or so. Remember, this game runs at 30 on consoles, all of the consoles, quite good. You could turn it down a bit, but I find that the best way to play this game, in my opinion, is to leave the textures cranked all the way up, and then you can turn down really everything else to whatever, medium, low, it doesn't really matter. But the game just seems to look good with high textures. And now we're back at performance. For some reason I'm on a horse now, and yeah, it's doing quite well now on performance. You can see here, again, this is 1600p, right? And we're getting 40 on average with, yeah, 40 on average there. So it looks quite good, but yeah, really good performance, all things considered, at 1600p. I mean, with the advancements in FSR, it's really making the 1600p screen not that big of a stretch. Here we have texture quality on high, and texture filtering on low. We can turn that down more later, but let's just see how it looks right now. I just want to see if it makes a difference here. Turn that down. Oh, it's still on high. Okay, let's go like that. See if that makes a difference. Actually, it makes a pretty big difference, to be honest. Okay. We're still on high textures, and we're getting, you know, well above 30 now. Over there, and then native. Yeah, so native with that integer scaling 800p. It actually looks pretty good, to be honest. I'd probably just play like this, not even with FSR, because you're going to have to turn the FSR way up. So let's just try low on performance to start here. Okay, so now we're on the 1600p, we're on performance FSR. It's not turned way up or anything, it's just performance, but we're on low. It's running okay, the lows aren't great, kind of as anticipated from Hogwarts. The game really does need some optimizing, but whatever. Same thing, 1600p low, and actually it's running very well now with that extra FSR. It actually looks really good too. I mean, that's the benefit of a small handheld, right? You're not really losing that much clarity. Like, it doesn't look blurry or anything. It's because it's a small screen, but right. So you're getting it res up to 1600p, but this is running really well actually. There was a huge jump between performance and ultra performance. So 800p just native integer scaling, no FSR as a result, obviously. Same settings, and it's about the same performance or so. It's actually a little bit better. So what do I think of the Lenovo Legion GO here? I actually am quite impressed with it, and I like it quite a bit. I think it's a fantastic device. I think the price is fair, and I think it's a logical and stepwise improvement over its predecessors like the ROG Ally, and then before that the Steam Deck. Legion Space is stupid. I can see the potential in it, but like the fact that it's like a non-minimizable app drives me ballistic. Like, why does this have to be up? And it just needs to be overhauled. So Lenovo needs to go to the drawing board with Legion GO, with Legion Space here. This needs to be redesigned. It needs to just be a Windows. You know, there's a couple other things that aren't, you know, the best in the world. When you're holding it in your hands, if you don't have big hands, you might find that these sharper edges here are a little less ergonomic than, say, the ROG Ally or the Steam Deck, which have these curled bezels there. You can see there it's curled versus sharp. So that little area right here might be a little annoying for some people. I think the overall hand feel of the device is really nice. It feels good. There's a lot of really nice controller inputs. Having this little touchpad thingy over here, like the Steam Deck there, is fantastic. The ROG Ally doesn't have that, and I did miss it. You know, these buttons over here are kind of dumb. These two should here be moved down. But these are just minimal things, right? The overall input to the device is great. It's quite nice. You know, the back buttons, again, they could be a little bit more positioned a little better, but they're fine. I don't have any actual issues with them. The controllers, everything's fine. This little scrolly thing is all in a good space. So in terms of hand feel and how it feels to just hold and use the device, I don't have any major issues with it whatsoever. Having this kickstand built in is a fantastic idea. You can also just use it like this and, you know, do whatever, but some people, you may want to just have the tablet like that. It also makes watching stuff good because this is a pretty big screen. It's an 8.8-inch screen. So, I mean, it's going to be the same as like a reasonable sized tablet. So if it comes to like reading books, I mean, you can literally, you know, read novels and things like that. If you just change it into portrait mode there, you can read off of this thing, or you can have it like this, and, you know, you can watch shows on it. It's actually quite cool. The weird little FPS controller here is actually surprisingly good. I thought it would be stupid. I thought it was going to be a quirk that I wasn't going to use, but you see my footage there. I actually had quite a blast using it. Then, of course, we have the performance of the device. It performs quite well. There's no issues with the gaming performance. 1600p, it is high resolution for an APU. You know, you're going to have to use some FSR, but there's a nice advantage of you can use native integer scaling, set it up to 800p, and it performs quite well at that, and it looks quite good because it's integer scaling, so it doesn't become all blurry. And then the other advantage is that you can also just, you know, use 1600p and throw on FSR. FSR has come a long way. It's not as bad as it used to be. You know, I think if you already have an ROG Ally and, you know, you're just doing it for like handheld gaming, that's going to be really up to you. I mean, the Legion GO is better in my opinion. It's bigger, it's much more bold, finer resolution, so it's just much more enjoyable to play games and use it on the Legion GO here. But I mean, the raw performance is basically the same, like plus minus whatever. So if you're like the same performance you're going to get on both of them. So, if you're just looking for like a mobile device to play games on and you already have an ROG Ally, I mean, it's not going to be any performance boost going with the Legion Go. You may want to just hold off and wait until like the ROG Ally 2 or the Legion Go 2 or the Steam Deck 2 or whatever, where you're getting, an actual performance boost. But if that big screen appeals to you, then in some cases it may be worth, upgrading from the ROG Ally or the Steam Deck to just get that big, beautiful screen there. It's very enjoyable. I will tell you right now, the screen is very enjoyable. That's the biggest selling feature for me, and I think it's on its own strong enough to actually justify this device. And then there's also the fact that, you get this bigger screen, it's a bigger device, so it's going to be less portable than the ROG Ally. So if you're looking for a large device and you're okay with it being a little bit bigger in the hands, a little bit heavier, a little bit more unwieldy to move around with, I think the Legion Go has enough going for it that it's pretty much a no-brainer to grab if you don't have any of these devices. I think this is the one you're going to want to pick up. It offers enough of an evolution over the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck to be just a standout handheld. I think that it really does offer enough just benefits with that large screen and just all the cool little things that it's added to. It just makes more sense to get the Legion Go. I think it's the better handheld than all of them, really. It does have some issues with it right now that'll be ironed out in the future, hopefully. But, I think it's a fantastic device.